There's a Q&A function in the webinar series here. If you go to the Q&A function, you can ask a question, and we will direct the question to the right individual, or we will answer it here on live stream right now. So the first question that's popped in is from Daniel. Target payout is 65% of each game round's betting pool, or is that 65% chance of getting a payout at any given play? So Tom or Tyson, do one of you want to take that?
You bet. That's a good question. The 65% is around the payout. It's not the chances on any one given play. Those are more characterized as odds. So the odds, we like to think about the odds as if you play it, you know, how many times would you play it on average before you would have a winning experience? That's more about the odds. The payout is based on, if we take in $100, how many dollars are we going to pay back to the player? So odds and payout, that's how I would think about those two things.
Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Daniel. We'll move to the next one, which is from Drew Anderson. Will the winners be given the opportunity to work on the continued development of the project they worked on? So Tyson and Tom, I think that's also a good question for you.
It's TBD. This is something I wanted to cover before on what I was talking about. Really where IGT comes in is where the rubber meets the road, and saying, okay, we've got a great concept here. Let's look at to see just that. What is a concept? What do you do with it? And then also the back end on the technical side, what does the coding look like? Obviously, being in a company of our size, we do have proprietary code, things like that, but we write in languages such as C++. So I'll say this, we'll look at the ideas, we'll look at the code. We typically just take it over. That's literally what we do with a lot of our customers and the contracts that we have. So it's a conversation that can be ongoing. We have internship programs, things like that at a corporate level, so it could be in that capacity. So that one's a little hard to answer right now, but I like the question. I like where it's going to say, you know, this is obviously a new realm for a lot of people that are on here, but yeah, we typically do that to in-house and also some third party, but we can chat with that, and Tom and I can have that conversation.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, we really don't know what we're going to get. I think that's part of the fun of this is, you know, we can see a concept, and when we start doing the evaluation of it, it could look like a really, really promising idea, but we would need to maybe drill down a little bit with the creators to find out, you know, what they were thinking about with a play style, or what they were thinking about with, you know, a winning action or whatever. There's so many variables that until we see the actual concepts themselves, it's going to be really hard to say how much more follow-up and how much more kind of explanation we're going to need from the creator. So yeah, I agree with Tyson, but I also would say that, you know, there's a pretty good chance that we'll have follow-up questions and dialogue that we'll have to, you know, have to follow through before we can go on to the next step.
So I'll add one thing in my conversations with you, Tom, and with your team. If I was to frame in this just you know, a little bit slightly differently, I would say we've agreed that we all understand that the projects that we get are going to be, you know, not half-baked, but they're going to be proofs of concept and sort of early development in large part. And I think that what I've noticed is the willingness from your team to sort of keep it open. Like, I think what you said about we don't know what we're going to get is true. So I think that what we had to do is create some base frame of engagement. Like, here's the rules, but there's a lot of flexibility in that depending on what comes up.
Absolutely. You know, we didn't want to put too tight of a fence around this because we don't want to discourage people from bringing their best ideas. And, you know, let's see what we get, and then let's see how much more exploration or how much more elaboration we have to do with the creator.
Agreed.
Great. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next question. So just remember, there's a chat function and a Q&A function. Please put your questions in the Q&A function, but I did see that there is a question that popped in first into the chat. So what are the odds of submission? Can you make a game with any chance of winning?
Could you kind of restate that question?
Sure. What are the odds of submission? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but can you make a game with any chance of winning? So in other words, when you talked about odds versus payout, can they make any odds of winning?
Yeah, we're not going to dictate what the odds of winning are. I think what you start getting into with the math is that you can't make every play a winner, or no one wins anything. So you kind of have to balance the payout with the odds of winning. And but no, we're not going to impose. It has to be roughly 1 in 4 or roughly 1 in 10. No, we want to hear different approaches to winnability. It's a big challenge in our industry, balancing off having a significant enough prize with giving people enough winning experiences. So that's part of what we're looking for, is new perspectives on that and new ideas about how to fulfill people's expectations.
Thanks, Tom. So we have a similar question. I think we may have just answered. Now that you've clarified the difference between payout and odds, is there a target percentage of odds that you're looking in the game submission with 50-50 odds? So I think we've just answered that. So we're not going to dictate the odds that you need to do. So use that in consideration with the payouts and obviously creating a game that's sort of multi-dimensional and beneficial for everyone. So I think that's good there. So next question is it okay if we choose not to use Web3 code if we choose to focus on Web2 instead? So Lou Cordova is going to answer this one. So go ahead, Lou.
Well, my understanding is that you can use Web2, but you wouldn't qualify for a second round from Chainlink of the second prize.
The sort of bonus prizes, yeah.
Bonus prizes. So the prize, the top prize is $10,000. There's a second set that the top prize is $5,000, but you have to use Web3 for that. So
right.
If you did use Web3, you could, if you were the total winner of everything, you could win up to $15,000. But those are separable things. To get the Web3 prizes, I believe you just have to qualify. So you have to submit, it has to be qualified. But if you also use Web3, you can qualify for more prizes. Do I have that right, John?
You do. You do have that correct. So yes. So just one point of clarification here. This is the merging of two worlds. We're not just looking for Web3, fully decentralized applications. That's not at all what this is about. The first and foremost priority is really the idea generation and crowdsourcing of creativity around a new game. Now, how you execute the game and what code you use to build the game is entirely up to you, and we're not going to stifle your creativity. However, I will say the more you do and the more you can provide as far as a full comprehensive gaming experience, and also venturing into some of these Web3 techniques and sort of things that Sergey talked about on his talk, I mean, it's going to win you some bonus points. But focus on the gameplay first. That's what Lou means when she says you have to qualify. You do have to make a submission to the lottery GameJam for a lottery proposed game, not just provable fairness tech, right? Like, we're not just looking for that. We're looking for a fully demoable game. Okay? So thank you, Lou, for your contribution there.
And John, I would even say that the most important thing is the idea. What that is, it's the idea. You can work on how to make it fraud proof later, how to do different things, how the mechanics of it works. But yes, a demo of your idea is first and foremost, and worry about the deep mechanics, after that.
Fair enough. All right, next question. Can I make a game that's meant for a touchscreen that allows constant swipes and multi-touch? Or is it supposed to be that you just pick one thing at the start and don't interact until it's over? So, I'll just say this. We're not looking for you to do anything particularly. We're trying to make sure that we keep the fields of creativity open. But Tom, do you want to speak to that at all on sort of any simple hints? But I know that you guys are judging on a very open criteria, so you're not looking for any sort of specific vector on this, but go ahead.
Right. So I would say don't restrict your creativity on this, because as we mentioned earlier, even though we're focused primarily on a monitor game platform for now, there are other ways that we can play. The monitors that we're going to start out with probably won't have that functionality, and I'll look to Tyson to jump in at any point, but I wouldn't let that be something that completely shuts off your flow. think about the game. Think about the game and how to win and how to play. Let us worry about the technology.
And how to deliver it, yeah.
But also keep in mind that to the point that you are swiping right, left, whatever you're doing things, it still has to be a game of chance. So if your ability to swipe faster or do something different changes the odds, then it's no longer a game of chance. So that's just a caution that a lot of times the interaction implies a skill level can be increasing, and then it no longer becomes a game of chance.
Yeah, if I could say something, Lou, it's a great point. I will say is if you're doing something that does not change the odds of the game or the outcome or anything like that, I say go for it. You know, we have certainly, you know, there's some self-service terminals that we use. There's other, you know, typical games where you run a place up, things like that. But for the purposes of this effort, I say, again, as long as it doesn't, you know, impact this, you know, not being skill-based, go for it. Let's see what you got. So hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, just one more point from me. You know, in the lottery world, we've typically developed the technology first and then fit games into that technology. One of the things I'm excited about with this is we could actually have a game that if it comes out to be so good, we'll take the game and then fit the delivery mechanism to the game. You know, we're going to flip over the typical development mindset. If we come out of this with some kind of game that just, you know, blows people's minds and tests great and just delivers an experience that lottery players have been looking for, we'll figure out a way to bring it to market. That's what I really want to impress upon people.
Yeah, it's a great point. And thank you, Tom. I in talking with your team, what I really love about this collaboration is I'll say it again, you know, to have that willingness to kind of step out into experimentation and just really be honoring and rewarding to creativity is a huge boon for this competition. So don't feel like you're constrained. I mean, as Tom and Tyson have said, like, go for it. You know, don't let it constrain you. Like, if you've got some interesting things to do, then do it. But I think the point about the game of chance is really important. So if you don't understand, if you don't know the difference between game of chance and game of skill, that's a really important distinction to make. So game of chance have fixed odds. Game of skill, the odds can vacillate depending on player input. So just make sure it stays as game of chance. That's the key here that takes away from this. All right, moving on to the next one, and we've just got a couple more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and clear out the queue and see if any remaining ones come in, and then we're going to wrap up. So next one, is there any specific requirement to the license used for the code submitted? Copy left allowed. So Dan, I'm not sure exactly what you mean on this one, but we did cover this a little bit earlier. The license, you have to have all the permissions and licenses to use the code that you've submitted. And any IP that's being submitted, you either have to have, again, licensed, or you have to own it yourself in order to qualify for a prize. Next question. I think you may have just answered this, but I want to clarify, can my game submission only run on one specific platform? Like, for example, if I get, no, exactly. We just covered this, I think, ad nauseum. So we just want to put an exclamation point behind that, like, look, don't feel limited. If you've got, you know, some really creative awesomeness that you want to express, then do it. And the state wants to see it. We want to see it. Everybody wants to see it. All right. So if we do use Web3 technology, is there a specific token to use for purchasing tickets such as DAI or USDC? So I'll answer this one. No. Again, you can use whatever you want. I would say when we talked about the idea earlier, when Lou mentioned that, like, it's really the idea, I'd build on that. I'm not going to contest that, but what I'm going to say is, yes, it's the idea, but most of the competition is probably going to come down to the UX and the experience. So the only thing that I would caution in the Web3 world is just making sure that your game is very usable, because the last thing that you want to do is to have the UX get in the way of the creativity, right? So we all know that in the Web3 world, we're still advancing ourselves in the space of user experience. So just keep that in mind as you're doing things. You will certainly get points for a really great user experience in using Web3 technology. So that's something I'm definitely looking for. But you know, again, you're not constrained on whether, you know, if you've got a funding mechanism, whether it's USDC or DAI, nobody really cares at this point what you use. All right, with that, I think we've cleared out the queue, and oh, we've got one more. I'm gonna let it happen. So Bren Venter is asking, you mentioned wanting to expand into a broader target market for these games. What is your current lottery market, and who are the demographics you aim to bring into the lottery? Tom and Lou?
The lottery's demographics are pretty similar to Colorado's demographics.
And explain that, and say who that is, because some people are gonna be out of the state.
So yeah, what I mean by that is that there isn't a specific age group, income group, or education group that is over or underrepresented very significantly. Most Coloradans have had some college. We have a pretty good ratio of college graduates, which is also true of Colorado. The population of Colorado skews a little bit younger, but our player base really falls into all of the different age categories, except for obviously the youngest people, because many are still in college or don't have, you know, incomes yet. So, and it also doesn't include a lot of older people at the highest end of the age spectrum, because if they're retired or on fixed incomes, they don't have as much money to spend on lottery. So think about people with jobs, you know, think about people that are smart enough to figure out how to play a game on a lottery terminal. Think about people who can afford to play a continuous amount of lottery if they want to. I know that's not super helpful, but it really is just every person's game. Who are we trying to bring in? Well, I think what we're really focused on is trying to grow our retailer base to include more bars and restaurants, social establishments where people hang out. It's not about how old they are or what they, you know, what their education is. It's about the social experience that we don't really have right now with any Colorado lottery products. But in many states, I think there are 19 states in the US now that have monitor networks where people can go to a bar, a restaurant, a sports bar, hang around, play a lottery game while they're waiting for their food. It's more experiential than it is really targeted to demographics. It's more about getting people involved at a different place than they're going to a convenience store or a grocery store. We want to expand their experience, and we think by expanding their experience, we'll appeal to more people. It's not really what those people look like. It's kind of what experience are they looking for, and something new that we haven't been able to provide them historically. I don't know if that's super helpful or not, but that's kind of how I would characterize it.
Lou's got one thing to add.
To that. Yeah, I would add to that. So everybody who's on this, ask yourself if you play lottery. And I'm not talking about buying them as Christmas presents, you know, to give to everybody. I'm talking about, are you really a lottery player? If the answer is no, we want you to be a lottery player. Build it for you. Build it to be fun for you, because we're trying to get people who don't normally play the lottery. So those of you who don't play the lottery, you're the perfect people to figure out a new game of what would get people playing the lottery. And your friends as well. What would make your friends play? That's kind of what we're looking for.
Great. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Tom. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the Q&A. We've closed that out. So if you have more questions, feel free to ask them via the Discord server. And, you know, we've got that open. From here on out, you know, we will be officially kicking off the Game Jam. So with that, I officially open the Game Jam. So you are welcome to begin your projects, and we look forward to seeing your insane creativity. If you haven't registered yet, here's one distinction that we're going to do differently than most hackathons or game jams. We're leaving it open, okay? We've got what, 9 days or something, and we're going to go ahead and leave registrations open. So if you've got friends that want to join late, it's okay. They're going to have a little bit of a disadvantage possibly if they come in 3 or 4 days into this, but we don't want to limit anybody's creativity and contribution. So we're going to go ahead and leave that open on the Game Jolt page. If you want to do that, just go to the Game Jolt page and just have your friends register there. Don't forget, Hashtag your project. When you're ready to submit it, you've got to use the specific CO Lottery Game Jam hashtag in GameJolt to submit your project. We will be reminding you throughout the week, so don't miss that. Now, I will say one last thing to announce. On Monday afternoon, we will have the governor back. And the governor will be doing an open Q&A session for all Game Jam participants to talk with him directly about his plans for the state, why it's a great place to come, move, live, play, work, whatever you want to do, visit, and the innovation goals specifically directly from him. So we will be sending around some communications about that. You'll be able to join that and get direct insights from the man himself on the visions of Colorado and all of this innovation, collaboration, and modernizing public good infrastructure through technology. So that's about it. So one last parting comment from me. So it's been an unbelievable honor to be a part of what I see as an absolute first in the country partnership of collaboration between very distinct worlds. We found ways to align our incentives and to really create open channels of sharing and creativity, and in just ways that I didn't ever think would actually happen. So we are very, very honored to be a part of this effort with the state, and we look forward to continuing these efforts, and maybe, who knows, possibly having call it the Colorado Jam next, something that's even bigger in scope and even more aggressive when it comes to looking and searching for the next vectors of innovation when it comes to modernizing our public systems and just how we work together as the public service sector, as well as just community members. So we look forward to that, and we couldn't be more full-throatedly supportive of this effort. Tom, your team, I want to give a special shout out to Gloria, who has done an unbelievable job at coordinating and project managing this. She deserves way more credit than she's getting, so I'm doing that publicly in front of everyone. And Lou, to you and your team as well, thank you so much. And all the participants and attendees, go make it happen. So jam on, folks. Let's do it. We'll talk to you soon.